Ron Artest. In November 2004, with 45.9 seconds left in a blowout win, Ron Artest fouls Ben Wallace under the rim. Wallace shoves him back. Chaos spreads from the paint to the scorer's table, then into the stands. When a fan hurls a cup from row 10, Artest bolts into the crowd and punches the wrong person. It becomes the most infamous brawl in NBA history, the Malice at the Palace, and earns Artest an 86-game suspension, the longest ever issued by the league. The NBA immediately enacts stricter fan-player separation and beefs up arena security policies. Years earlier in Chicago, Artest admits to drinking Hennessy during halftime in the locker room. He averages 16.1 points and 5.2 rebounds in 2003-04, but leads the league in flagrant fouls. Across his career, he racks up 17 ejections and 111 technicals, clashing with opponents, referees, and even teammates in practice. In 2011, he legally changes his name to Meta World Peace, citing a personal transformation and the pursuit of calm. He later changes it again to Meta Sandiford Artest after marriage. But even with the 2010 championship ring, Artest's name remains synonymous with volatility, both in defense and behavior. The league's image suffers after the Malice, prompting a crackdown on conduct that continues into the Draymond Green era. Draymond Green. Draymond Green leads the NBA in technical fouls across 5 separate seasons: 2016, 2017, 2018, 2022, and 2023, averaging over 15 per year during that span. In the 2016 Western Conference Finals, he kicks Thunder center Steven Adams in the groin not once, but twice, drawing a flagrant and national scrutiny. That same postseason, a similar incident with LeBron James escalates into a suspension for Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Golden State, up 3-1 at the time, loses that game and eventually the series, fueling a narrative that his volatility cost them the championship. On the court, Green is a 4-time All-Star and 2017 Defensive Player of the Year, anchoring one of the most efficient defenses in NBA history. Off the court, he repeatedly draws attention for outbursts and altercations, including a now infamous practice fight in 2022 where he punches teammate Jordan Poole. His 2023 ejection for stomping on Domantas Sabonis' chest draws another suspension and a sharp rebuke from the league, which cites a repeat offender clause in the decision. He later tells reporters he made peace with the consequences. That same season, Green is ejected 4 more times and suspended twice more for separate flagrant incidents. Because his production still includes 7.7 assists and 6.9 rebounds per game in 2023, Golden State continues to rely on him. But the league now places every Green ejection under a microscope. The tolerance level narrows further in the wake of Latrell Spreewell's legacy. Latrell Spreewell. In December 1997, Warriors guard Latrell Spreewell attends a team practice already frustrated with head coach PJ Carlesimo. When Carlesimo tells him to put a little mustard on a pass, Sprewell grabs him by the throat and chokes him for nearly 10 seconds before teammates pull him away. He returns 20 minutes later, punches Carlesimo in the face, and leaves practice again. The NBA suspends Sprewell for 68 games without pay, costing him $6.4 million in salary and triggering a legal battle with the league and his team. Golden State voids the remainder of his $23 million contract, citing breach of conduct. Sprewell later joins the Knicks and helps lead them to the 1999 NBA Finals, averaging 16.4 points in the playoffs. But the outbursts continue. In 2002, he punches a teammate during pre-game warm-ups in practice and avoids further league discipline only because the incident is kept internal. 2 years later, the Timberwolves offer him a 3-year, $21 million extension. Sprewell rejects it publicly, saying, "I've got a family to feed," and never plays in the NBA again. At the time, he has earned over $97 million in career salary. In 2006, Milwaukee police cite him for driving 90 miles per hour in a 30 zone, while still on parole. The NBA, now facing multiple off-court scandals, begins drafting stricter personal conduct policies ahead of Gilbert Arenas' case. Gilbert Arenas. On December 24, 2009, Wizards guard Gilbert Arenas brings 4 loaded handguns into the Verizon Center locker room following a gambling dispute with teammate Javaris Crittenton. Days later, Arenas reportedly lays the guns out at Crittenton's locker, demanding repayment in what he later describes as a prank. The league investigates and, by January 2010, suspends Arenas indefinitely under the "conduct detrimental to the league" clause. He ultimately receives a 50-game suspension without pay, forfeiting $7.5 million in salary and marking one of the most severe disciplinary actions in NBA history. DC's Superior Court adds 2 years of probation and community service after a guilty plea on felony gun charges. Before the incident, Arenas is a 3-time All-Star and averages 29.3 points per game during the 2005-06 season, ranking 4th in the league. But the gun episode alters his public image and derails his career trajectory, especially after he claims the confrontation was just a joke, despite league statements labeling him a serious threat. Arenas later admits he didn't expect consequences because nobody ever tells the truth to Stern. Washington voids his leadership role and trades him to Orlando the following season, where his production drops to under 9 points per game. After retiring, Arenas rebrands as a digital personality, launching a podcast and appearing on YouTube shows, while routinely revisiting his locker room incident with both defiance and sarcasm. The NBA, under new Commissioner Adam Silver, begins reevaluating player conduct policies and media access as it prepares for the post-2010 era of discipline and image control. Kermit Washington. On December 9, 1977, during a mid-game altercation between the Lakers and Rockets, 6 feet 8 inches forward Kermit Washington lands a single punch that fractures Rudy Tomjanovic's skull. The blow crushes bones in Tomjanovic's face, causes severe brain and spinal fluid leakage, and nearly kills him on the court. Tomjanovich requires multiple surgeries and misses 5 months of play. The NBA suspends Washington for 26 games, the harshest punishment of the era, and fines him $10,000. At the time, there are no league protocols for mid-game violence beyond double technicals and ejections. The incident triggers public outcry and leads directly to the NBA instituting new rules governing on-court fights. In 1978, the league introduces mandatory fighting fouls and automatic ejections for punches, citing the long-term risk to player safety and league image. Washington, who averages 11.5 points and 10.1 rebounds that season, becomes a pariah overnight. He later claims the media exaggerated the incident and ruined his reputation, framing the punch as instinctive self-defense during a chaotic moment. Despite that, several teammates expressed discomfort sharing the locker room with him afterward. The severity of the incident prompts the league to more clearly define unsportsmanlike conduct, setting a precedent for how future violent outbursts, like those by Vernon Maxwell and Ron Artest, will be handled. Vernon Maxwell. By 1995, Rockets guard Vernon Maxwell earns the nickname Mad Max, not just for his streaky shooting, but for a career defined by volatility and confrontation. On March 26, during a game in Portland, Maxwell sprints into the stands and punches a heckler in the face, reportedly over comments about his wife's miscarriage. The NBA suspends him for 10 games without pay and fines him $20,000. It is one of 12 ejections and 3 league suspensions across his career, including another $10,000 fine for throwing a basketball directly at a referee's head after a no-call. Teammates report frequent flare-ups in practices and film sessions. Maxwell averages 12.8 points per game across 13 seasons, winning a title with Houston in 1994, but his disciplinary record overshadows on-court contributions. Arrest reports detail assaults, including incidents outside team facilities, and several teams waive him despite guaranteed contracts. He later claims undiagnosed bipolar disorder contributed to his behavior, though he never formally seeks league exemption or treatment support. Maxwell's relationship with coaches deteriorates repeatedly. He walks out on the Rockets during the 1995 playoffs and is immediately released. His post-NBA reputation as an unfiltered podcast guest and chaotic storyteller reflects the same pattern that plagued his career. The next generation of enforcers, like Charles Oakley, continued the tradition of retaliatory violence, but with more structured control. Charles Oakley. Across 19 NBA seasons, forward Charles Oakley records 2,585 personal fouls, the most by any player since the league began formally tracking the stat in 1970. He is ejected 31 times during his career and fouls out of 167 games, often while defending premier scorers like Karl Malone and Charles Barkley. Oakley functions as both enforcer and protector, particularly during his tenure with the Bulls and Knicks, where he averages 10.3 rebounds and 9.5 points per game over a full decade. His 6 feet 8 inches, 245-pound frame becomes a symbol of physical intimidation in an era that rewards contact-heavy interior play. Coaches use him as deterrent first, rebounder second. In one of the most notorious off-court clashes, Oakley slaps Charles Barkley mid-interview in the locker room tunnel, reportedly in retaliation for Barkley's trash talk during a TNT segment. He later earns a lifetime ban from Madison Square Garden in 2021 after being forcibly removed by security and arrested for trespassing, sparking public backlash and a highly publicized feud with Knicks owner James Dolan. The incident goes viral, reigniting Oakley's image as a no-nonsense bruiser who answers disrespect with action. Despite the controversy, he retains broad popularity among players, coaches, and fans who view him as the last great, tough guy of the pre-modern NBA. Oakley's role as enforcer is eventually succeeded by flashier, more media-savvy players like Metta World Peace, but his impact on league culture remains a reference point in disciplinary conversations. Bill Lambear. Between 1988 and 1990, Pistons center Bill Lambear leads the NBA in flagrant fouls and becomes the league's most visible symbol of sanctioned physicality. Standing 6 feet 11 inches and averaging 9.7 rebounds per game during Detroit's back-to-back title runs, Lambear builds his reputation on body checks, elbows, and hard fouls away from the ball. In a 1987 game, he elbows Celtics forward Larry Bird in the face, drawing a $10,000 fine and escalating one of the fiercest rivalries of the era. He later punches teammate Isaiah Thomas during practice, confirming that his confrontations are not limited to opposing teams. Despite, or because of, his style, Lambear plays in 4 All-Star games and anchors one of the league's top defensive units. For 3 consecutive seasons, players and coaches in league surveys vote Lambear the NBA's most hated player. Opponents accuse him of dirty tactics, while he openly dismisses criticisms, claiming that physical play is part of winning. He once told reporters, "I make no apologies. I don't care what people think." The league does not suspend him for most incidents, but his style prompts new emphasis on flagrant foul definitions in the early 90s. After retiring, he transitions to coaching, where his hard-nosed philosophy earns him multiple WNBA titles with the Detroit Shock and Las Vegas Aces. Lambear's impact is twofold: on-court outcomes and league policy, setting a precedent for how violent reputations shape both broadcast narratives and rule enforcement, a pattern that continues with players like Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes. In October 2015, former Clippers forward Matt Barnes drives 95 miles to confront Derek Fisher at a house party in Los Angeles. Fisher, then head coach of the Knicks, is dating Barnes' ex-wife. When Barnes arrives, a physical altercation follows, prompting a police investigation and team suspension. The NBA fines him $35,000 and suspends him 2 games for conduct detrimental to the league. At the time, Barnes has already racked up 14 career ejections and 9 flagrant fouls across 14 seasons, mostly while serving as a defensive stopper and agitator. On the court, Barnes builds his career through confrontational perimeter defense, accumulating over 1,000 personal fouls while averaging just under 9 points per game. In one 2011 incident, he wraps his arm around an opponent's throat under the basket during live play. No foul is called, but the footage circulates widely online. Barnes later calls it just another play, but never denies the intent. Teammates often credit him as loyal and fearless, Opponents view him as disruptive and emotionally volatile. After retiring in 2017, Barnes repositions himself as a blunt media figure through the podcast All the Smoke, frequently revisiting past confrontations without apology. His legacy reflects a shift in league culture, where personal drama and physical intimidation blend with content creation and brand building. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.